Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 164 of the I Rock Knits podcast. I'm back. Oh, it was really, really good for me to take a break. I just missed one podcast. It's the first time I've done that in 6 years, and it was just so nice to take that off my list of things that I needed to do. December was crazy for us around here. We had a wedding and then Christmas. We had holiday parties and dinners, and it was just a lot. And I just found myself running, trying to keep up with all of it. And I just couldn't quite get ahead and get my head around things. And so once the new year came around, I was just really struggling. And I thought, okay, something has to give here. So I'm really, really excited to be back with all of you. Today I'm wearing my Bada Bing Pontini. I knit this several years ago. It was one of my designs. This is one of my favorite colorways. All the information is listed on my project page on Ravelry. I do get a lot of comments on this when I wear it on the podcast, and because I have worn it once before, and when I go out and about. I think the red and orange kind of glow a little bit, and so it is kind of a fun one. It's a great cover up too for in the evenings if you're sitting around in your pajamas and you get a chill. You can just kind of throw it on, and it's written for a couple of sizes, and it's really easy to upsize if you need it, if you wanted it to be really full, like almost a poncho, because I'm calling this a Pontini. So I can move my arms quite freely in it, but I can't lift them above my head. Right? Like if I lift them above my head, it will ride up, but I do really like this piece. Let's talk about Knit Night, because that's coming right away. So if you are a Patreon, and if you're not a Patreon, why not? We are having Knit Night this Tuesday night, January 14th from 7 to 8 on Zoom. That's Central Standard Time. And I will be putting up the link in the Patreon group so that you can just go over and click on that and join us. I always do record that, but all we're doing is sharing what we're working on. It's really fun. We sit for an hour and knit together, and you get to know maybe some other people in the community, people that are supporting me, and it's just been really, really nice. So if you're watching this in the first few days after it comes out, we will be doing that. I'm announcing a book club for next month. That will be February 13th from 7 to 8 p.m. And we're going to read the book Lessons in Chemistry. I read that at the end of last year. It was one of my favorites of the year, and I really want to talk to some people about it. So I'm hoping that I'm giving everybody enough time to get the book and get it read. It's a little bit longer, and it is very popular. So I'm thinking that there are probably some of you out there that have already read it as well. I know I saw it at Costco on sale right before the holidays. Of course, I always do the audiobooks. Yeah, we're going to get right into it today. I have quite a few things to show you, but it is a cold and blustery day. We got several inches of snow overnight. My husband had to shovel this morning, and so we did stay home from church. We just watched it online, which is kind of the lazy way to do it, but he said it's just so windy and the snow is blowing, and even though we didn't get a lot, we should have gotten up, but it was really nice to just stay in the pajamas and watch church that way, which we don't do very often. I did finish some things for over the holidays. I did take some time for knitting for myself. I have a lot of design work coming up, which we'll talk about, but I just did take some time for myself. So I knit a purple fluffy cowl for my sister-in-law. Her birthday is a few days after Christmas, and they were the ones, my brother Jeff and his wife Sherry, brought my parents up for the wedding, and which was lovely. And they managed everything. They stopped along the way so mom and dad could get out and walk, and they stopped and had breakfast. And then when they got here, they made sure that they were taken care of because we had so much on our plate. And so I had a hat that I wanted to give to Jeff, a Musselboro hat that's like that double thick but the lightweight yarn. He's a runner. He runs outside, and it is kind of neon colors. I thought it would be really good for in the winter for people to recognize that there's a runner in the road in those bright colors. We ended up not going to Sioux Falls for Christmas and seeing my family, which was a real bummer. I thought we were going to go, but like I said, we were just swamped. We had so much going on, and we just couldn't get, like, the dog was going to daycare a lot, and we were just running around getting gifts and organized, and we just couldn't do it. So I ended up shipping a package to my brother Mark and Jenny and their daughter, and a package to Jeff and Sherry and their son, and then to my other nephew and his wife and their 3 children who I had knit for this year, and I got pictures of them. So I will put some pictures in here of the gifts that I knit for those people. And it's really fun always after you send a gift, right, to get the pictures back from people, just so that you know that they got it and that at least they put it on once. So I did get those all put in, but then I continued on my goal of knitting the Shetland wool week hats. So I am doing a project based on Shetland wool week. The hats come out every year, and I think there are 14 hats total at this point. So this one this is the Shwook hat. And this is all Fair Isle knitting. So you get these bands of color here across. You're changing color quite often. So like, instead of this star being all yellow, right, and just having a little green in the middle, they're changing colors at the bottom, in the, up a little bit, and then across the center, you're always adding another row of color. And that's just kind of really stereotypical of what a Shetland wool week hat will look like. There are a couple that don't quite follow that, but then the crown decreases are always really pretty. And I am enjoying knitting these so much. I ordered 3 more kits. It takes 5 skeins of Jamieson's or Jamieson's of Shetland wool, and several places online do kits. I talked about this a little bit last time, but you can just Google Shwook hat kits and come up with a kit or 2, especially in the ones that are more recent. But I went out and looked at other colorways, because some of the colorways are not my palette, but in Knitting 14, I want to do one like in every color palette, but I finished another one. So this one was well started on the last podcast, but this is the Buggifloers, probably one of my favorite. I just love the flowers in this one, but look at that crown. Oh, they are just experts at making the crowns just absolutely beautiful. This one's a little bit bigger in size and circumference, because the flower motif is larger, and so in order to do more than one size, when they sized it up, the hat is just not a lot, but a tad bigger around. And this one was a little taller, and so when I blocked it a little wider, because I didn't want it to be too tall. And because these sections are so big and you do this full repeat here, this one got a little taller. And the way I can tell that is on my head. My glass head fits my size of my head really well. And see how I've got just a little bit of extra in here? And I could just kind of tell that was going on. So this is Buggifloers, and this one is Shwook. And so I will be posting those in my Instagram and filling in the next boxes. I ordered yarn to make a purple and lavender one. And then I ordered yarn to make like a red, blue, and yellow, like primary colors, which the purple one was a palette for one of the hats, but it wasn't the palette that I already knit. So I'm copying the palette. I ordered the yarn, I think this time I ordered from Jimmy Beans, and I'm just copying that palette onto a different hat, because I wanted to go out and find, all of the different palettes to try to have them all look incredibly different and not be quite so, close in. So far I have knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So what colors am I missing? I kind of have the orange with the white here. So let's do red, orange, yellow, blue, green, purple, indigo, right? I'm kind of getting there. So I really do need the purple one to happen. and then red, definitely a red, because this one's definitely pink and purple. And the purple one is very lavender with some dark purple. And then I do think I could do an orange background hat, since this one really is a white background and it's so different from this one that does have some cream in it. So yeah, I'm having a ball. They don't take me super long to knit. I can knit, you know, a section each evening. And so it's not a long-term project. The circumferences on all of them are quite, you know, small. It's not like knitting a Fair Isle sweater, which I'd really like to take on, but with all the design work I have to do, that's not happening. So I moved along on that. That was kind of fun. And if anybody wants to join me on this journey, I would love to have some people join me, or just to pick some more of your Shetland, you know, your favorites that are out there. I know that I have Isolde Teague's coming up, and I can't think of the rest. I'd have to get my little, I'll put it in here, my post from my Canva that I'm filling out as I go, filling out the boxes as I go. Okay, and then I have a new design coming out. It will be out before the end of January. It is a collaboration with Fiber MacGyver DK weight yarn, and it's in testing right now. The mitten pattern will go out today, and the hat pattern went out on Thursday, and so it's a hat and mitten combination. I'm going to give you a sneak peek. So this is the hat. Here is the hat. And it is called the Lollipop Park Hat. And I've talked about Lollipop Park before. It was a little tiny kids amusement park near the house that I grew up in. Like not even a mile away. It was just down the road. And it wasn't like what you think of today as an amusement park. And I have an old picture of it that's on the pattern. And they had little picket fence and chevron striping, and then they had lollipops everywhere, and the lollipops were striped. And so I decided that this was going to be called Lollipop Park. I have another colorway that I'll be knitting it up in, a dark green and a pink. And then Darn It Anyway is going to kit these. They're going to have kits via Fiber MacGyver, and she will have a sample as well. So we're working on all that. And then I have a mitten. I have a mitten kind of going here. It is not quite finished. I have the other mitten is done. I have to Kitchener the top and put both thumbs on. I knit the thumb, and I was off just a little bit by it in this because I have the chevron patterning going up the thumb. And so I had to rip it back. I almost got to the top and I noticed, and I was like, dang. So I have to go back and put that on the needles and finish up that chevron. But the chevron goes all the way around, and then it matches, it coordinates with the actual hat. I did make the adult small mitten. I do kind of like a small mitten, and so this is the small. It's quite narrow, but it fits my hand perfectly. A medium would fit me better as far as like having some ease, but I do like them when they're a little bit tighter and not so loose, and they don't feel like they're gonna fall off. And I like them when they're small, that I can fold them up and they stay in my coat pockets better when they're not a big bulky mitten. Does that make sense? So for the next pair, I'll knit the adult medium mitt and the adult larger hat, so that I have multiple samples, but I will get that on and off the needles in the next couple of evenings. Then I'm going to have a new cowl coming out with Cascade yarns. They sent me some of their fluffy yarn, blown yarn, and I'm really excited about that. That's going to come out mid-February. And then I have a shawl coming out with Ross Farms in March. And hopefully in between all of that, I'll have a shawl cowl combination, kind of a Pontini, Ponchette concept coming out with Get Bent's Farm. So that is, I have a lot, a lot to get done. And so I've just been knitting and designing and knitting and designing and writing and getting all that done. But I'm also teaching a ton. So I'm going to be teaching at the Up North Fiber Retreat this weekend. I'm leaving on Thursday. I teach on Friday afternoon, and that's in Bemidji, Minnesota. I think I will be seeing some of you there. And then the next weekend I come home on Sunday, and on Tuesday we fly to Arizona, and we're taking our yearly vacation to go to the Barrett-Jackson car auction, but I'm teaching at Tempe Yarns. So if you're in the Arizona area, I will be teaching on that Friday. What is the date? The date is the 24th of January. I'm teaching 2 classes, color work, and Latvian braids in the morning, and then knitting an owl cowl, so cabling or cabling without a cable needle, depending on what you'd rather learn, in the afternoon. So those are up on their website, and you can register for those now. And then in February 15th, I'm teaching braids at Maple Grove at Amazing Threads, and I haven't taught there for a long time. And then on March 2nd, I am teaching tips and tricks at the Broken Clock Brewing Company Co-op. And that is a new event that's being done by 2 women here in the Minneapolis area. And it's Crafters Gonna Craft on Instagram. So go over and follow Crafters Gonna Craft. And they're gonna try to do some events. And that's on a Sunday afternoon. And it's mostly a vendor, like, open knitting time, but they are offering a class. So I'm going to teach my tips and tricks class, and it'll be about an hour and a half to an hour and 45-minute class that we will do right there at the brewery. And that is a Minneapolis brewery, and there are 2 breweries called Broken Clock, and the one is in Bloomington, but the co-op is in Minneapolis. So I wanted to make sure that I kind of mentioned that to all of you. And then in April, I'm busy teaching all the time. I'm going to be teaching in Mankato, Minnesota. She's having a retreat. Cato Yarn is having a retreat on the 19th of April on a Saturday. And so I'll be teaching for her. I just sent her the contract, and she'll be doing registration. So go over and follow Cato Yarn if you're interested in going to a retreat in Mankato, Minnesota. Yeah, so I like, things have just... All of those teaching gigs require lots of communication, what I'm going to teach, negotiating prices, getting out contracts, and I love teaching, but the prep for it sometimes is kind of daunting, getting everything ready and all of that. So I do have to alphabetize 50 sweaters tomorrow, because that is the class that they chose for me to teach, is 50 Shades of Sweaters. So yeah, I'm teaching a lot. I've got a lot of design work happening. Just super busy. I come home from Arizona on a Saturday. My husband leaves on Sunday for Florida for a work trip, and I leave on Thursday for Stillwater for Darn It Anyway sweater camp. So my next 3 weeks are going to be barely landing at home and then leaving, and barely landing at home and leaving. There's still a lot of daycare for the dog. And the passing of the dog. I'm going to be gone. You have the dog. You're going to be gone. I have the dog. What if we're both gone on the same day? So yeah, we had to do some fancy footwork to make sure that Chevy, the Bernedoodle, who loves daycare. I have a little tip for you. In my Instagram feed, I had a announcement come up about a place that would recycle old iPhones, iPads, cords, and plugs and things like that. And we have a drawer in our mudroom that is just full of electronic cords that no longer fit any of our devices. So over the holiday, I was back there looking for something, and I bagged up anything that I just stood there real quick and shoved took all the USBs and everything that just don't seem to work in our iPhones, just the plugs and some of them. And so I ordered one of these boxes, and it's called trashy.io, and they will recycle, and it's a safe and secure, verified network where you can ship the box back in. So you purchase the box and then you ship it back in, and they get points for purchasing things. I don't care about any of the points or that I had to buy the box. I just don't want to throw this stuff away. I want it to be recycled and used, and they'll if you have anything that you think you might have data on. I'm not sending in any phones, those we don't have, but all these cords. So I just wanted to share that with you. The box is on its way. What have I been watching? Oh, so much stuff. I finished the Great British Bake Off. Wow, I love the Great British Bake Off so much. Those people are all lovely and they all like each other. So that's awesome. You know, they work together, they help one another. And then I watched the new season of Queer Eye. That is always a tearjerker. These people, they transform these people's lives and, you know, give them a new outlook and cut their hair and help them with their clothes and clean up their houses and show them how to cook. And yeah, it's really uplifting. I really like that one. Then I finished Shetland. I watched 9 seasons of Shetland in November and December. I think I had watched some of it before, but I didn't remember. And I just love putting on a season where it can just play and play and play, and I don't have to decide what I'm watching in the next hour. So I finished Shetland. And then I watched 1 season of a show called The Long Call, which is always also on BritBox, but I'm getting my BritBox through Apple TV. So I paid for a month or 2 of this Apple TV, and I'm just watching everything that's on there through the BritBox app. It comes up and that's how I'm watching it, but that was just a 1 season, and it was again like a detective kind of show. Then I watched DCI Banks, and that was a bunch of seasons of another Shetland-like murder mystery on, you know, in the British area, Great Britain and Scotland and Wales. So I watched that. Then now I'm watching Inspector Lewis, and these are old. These go back to like 2006. And this is the best ones I've watched. They take more time. I don't love a sitcom, and I don't love when they solve a mystery in an hour. I would like more in depth, and that is what this one is. It takes, I think it's more like an hour and 45 minutes for them to kind of solve, and sometimes they solve it over a whole season. It takes a long time, so you get to know more of the characters and stuff. So that one's called Inspector Lewis. The first season was just called Lewis, and then they changed it, I think, to be called Inspector Lewis. And, you know, he's a detective working with a young guy, training him up, and they're solving different crimes. So I'm really enjoying that. And then I started on YouTube looking for some new things to watch. I did watch a bunch of knitting podcasts, but I usually don't list those off here. You know, I sit down and watch just a bunch. But the old station renovation, it was a 1-year recap of some people in England who purchased an old station, and they're renovating it into their house. It's not done yet, but I had missed the first year. Like, I didn't see it, I didn't know. It's just fascinating. They moved a kind of a mobile home into the backyard of this place and set up a little garden that they're living in with their 2 girls. And then they're just renovating this old train station. It's really neat. So I would recommend that. That was on YouTube, the old station renovation. Then I saw a couple of other things on YouTube. The historical knitting competition from 1971, which was like maybe a 5-minute video. And I'll have the link in the show notes below, but that was really fun to see them knitting. It was a competition to see who could knit the fastest, and they cast on and they showed them, and it's kind of just a clip, it was really fun. So that was kind of neat to watch, especially because I wasn't knitting in 1971, but I was born. Let's do the audiobooks, okay? Yeah, have I been listening? To a ton. But first of all, I want to tell you that Alan Eskins, who is one of my favorite Minnesota authors, his new book is coming out in February. So go put it on your holds list or your audio. It's called The Quiet Librarian by Alan Eskins. So he wrote some of my favorite books of all time. So I would just want to put that. So I did do a mystery first, and this is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. And in order to make these go more quickly, I'm just going to read you the synopsis. When a teenager vanishes from her Adirondack summer camp, 2 worlds collides. So it's early morning, August of 1975. A camp counselor discovers an empty bunk. And then we jump forward, I think it's to like 1987-ish. And this came highly recommended on a lot of platforms. I didn't love it. I guess maybe I'm just not a huge murder mystery audiobook person. Yeah, it was interesting. Lots of familial relation problems and, you know, different people coming and going. But it won't be one of my favorites of this year. It was good. It was suspenseful. But I'd probably give it like a 3. It was good. But I think people are giving it like a 5, and I didn't see that in it. Okay, then I read A Boy Called Christmas. I listened. It was so lovely. Really liked it. This is going to be a major motion picture, and maybe it already came out and I just missed it. I haven't looked yet, but it's by Matt Haig, and it's kind of the prequel to Who Became Father Christmas. And it's this little boy, and he and his father are very poor. They don't have any money. His father goes off to make his wealth, and then the little boy follows him, and it's the story of him finding the elves at the North Pole and how they live. And it was just lovely. I think the book was 4 hours. Yeah, it was a 4-hour audiobook, and I just really enjoyed it. I read A Small World by Laura Zigman, and this is a story of a woman who is similar to something else I read about people kind of living vicariously through these Nextdoor apps, reading about other people's lives and wants. And I can't remember what that book was where that woman was reading stuff in like a Nextdoor app. But anyway, a year after her divorce, Joyce is settling into being single again. She likes her job archiving family photos and videos, and she's developed a secret, comforting hobby, trolling the neighborhood social networking site, Small World. So it's a little quirky, it's a little weird. She likes to cut out some of the things that people write and then make them into poetry. And then there's a whole story that goes with that. So it was an interesting premise. And you know, very current, because I do think that a lot of neighborhoods are on these apps where you can sell things, buy things, find a dentist, you know, have someone recommend a hairstylist or whatever, all those things that can happen out there. But then some people also post kind of some personal things on some of these apps, which, you know, is interesting. Okay, then I read Red at the Bone, and that was what I thought was going to be our book club book for February, and I didn't love it, so I couldn't pick it. It was a short book. It's on a ton of must-reads for book clubs. I don't know if, you know, sometimes you're just not in the mood for the story that you're reading, so you always have to take my opinions with a grain of salt. Because as an audiobook listener, if you're not in tune, if you're just not paying attention and you miss some things, you might not like the book. And it might not have anything to do with the actual written. As the book opens in 2001 is the evening of 16-year-old Melody's coming of age ceremony in her grandparents' Brooklyn brownstone. And then 16 years later, the dress is worn by someone else. And so it's the story of these two families that kind of get connected, and then this dress and the coming of age of this young person. This again was only a 4-hour novel, and I was really hoping it was just going to have all this powerful impact. The ending is surprising, so I will give it that. But I didn't have that feeling of I just can't put it down that I would want to have for a book club book, right? Like for a book club book, I want me to have really enjoyed it so that everyone, even if people didn't like it quite as much, they might fall on a level of liking it. That makes sense? Okay, and then yesterday I finished A Long Petal of the Sea by Isabel Allende. That is my book club book for the book club I attend. And that is tomorrow. And I'm the new leader for that book club. And so I needed to get that one finished. And that is about the Spanish Revolution and people being exported to Chile. About these two young people. The brother has died in the war, and she is the widow, and the brother decides that he needs to get her to safety. And she is pregnant, and they get on this ship that is going to go to Chile and drop them off where they can start a new life, but they have to be married to get on the ship. And he has to propose to her that she should marry him to save them the baby. And so they do get married, but they don't have a marital relationship. And it is, you know, as Isabel Allende does, is a written chronicle of these people's lives and how they escape, and then their lives once they get to Chile. Yeah, very, very well done. Excellent novel. And I will have more to say probably after tomorrow when we do the book club discussion. I wish I had a funny Cori stories for you, but I really don't. I don't have anything too funny. But this year, since we were so late in getting a Christmas tree because we didn't get one before the wedding, and I just ordered a skinny white Christmas tree, artificial. I had always put up 2 Christmas trees, a real one and then a small artificial one that had Kylie's ornaments on it when she was little, right? It just had all of her, little Barbie ones or Disney ones or whatever. And we had that tree that we put up. And then when they moved into their first apartment together, I gave her that artificial tree, all those ornaments too, but they were gonna do their own ornaments. So I didn't have that artificial smaller tree to put up, and we tried to get a tree and they were so picked over and so dead that I just said to Ross, I just want to have something up. So I bought this, and I'll put a picture in, this cute little white tree off Amazon. It was tall and skinny, and I had 6 red ornaments in my basement in a box, and I thought that's what I'm going to do. Well, the ornaments never did get put on that tree, but I decided that I really do want to decorate that tree in the future for in the other room by the window. And so I want to do it in red and pink. So I got a little tree skirt that was pink and red that looked like Christmas candy. You know, it was like in a swirl. And so then I got online. I was sitting one night watching something, and I got online, I got on Etsy, and I ordered some pink and red stuff that never did get on the tree. But I want to share it with you because it's so cute. So I thought I'm gonna look and see what ornaments I could make, right? Because I have knit ornaments before. And I saw these, and you know, people were making these for the holidays, and so I ordered them. So I got a little pair of red, I went on Etsy, little red mittens, and I thought, oh, I'm gonna support some of these people, right? So I supported that person. I bought these little red overalls so I didn't have to knit them next year, but aren't they cute? And they came, so I put those in this little box. Put this all on the table so I'd remember to share with you. And then look at this pink sweater. So cute. Now, could I knit these? Yes, but do I have time? And will I remember next year in enough time? No, because I still have 23 Christmas mitten garlands to make. But this one came from North Wind Knits, and that's Linda, and she's a podcast watcher. And so I want to tell you all to go out and support North Wind Knits on Etsy. She has natural fiber hand knits and weavings, and this is so well knit. Like, it is so well done. I'm just super excited about it. So anyway, I put her card with this, and then she wrote me a little note. And then she said, thank you so much. I have enjoyed your podcast over the years. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I recognized her name, but anyway, so I really wanted to share that with you. And then the Northwind Knits lady also sent the sweater pattern. So I can knit one of, I don't know if there was anything on there that was, no. So that's kind of fun too, yeah. And then I think you guys all know that I have felted ball table runner and big center felted balls. Then they're stitched together. So then I found these. This is garland, pink felted ball garland, and it comes with this extra string coming out the end, so you can spread the balls apart. You can slide them and spread them apart to fit your tree better if you don't want them to be super close together, which the tree is very skinny and tall, so I think this package will work, but so I got that as well because it came so well packaged. But these are some red balls that have fuzzy, they are covered with this red ribbon to put on the tree. And so I'm gonna do that one as well. And that came from Bob and Poppy, Adorable Cozy Creations. Whoops, dropped the card. Poppy, isn't that cute? And that is also an Instagram and Etsy that I saw that one. So even though it's after the holidays, I am prepared for next year. When we were putting away some Christmas, I did bring up a few Christmas decorations and things. I was able to find a couple of ornaments that I have knit. And so I started putting them together in a box just for this tree, right? That'll be all down there. So now this stuff that all came, that's been sitting on my table, will all go in that box. So for next year, that white tree will have a start at least of what I need to get it going. And one more thing, I was home prior to Thanksgiving, and my mom and dad gave Ross and I all my dad's old coins to take in here to Minneapolis to see if they had any value. And my dad had lots of coins because he owned the drugstore. And at the drugstore, he would get, tons of change, and we would roll quarters and pennies back in the day. And so if anything looked particularly old, so he had lots of books where you collected all the years of pennies and nickels and dimes and things like that. And so we brought back these 2 boxes, very heavy, but and then he had some silver. He didn't have any gold. And then Ross said, I have some coins at home in a shoebox. And I was like, I know exactly where that box is. He said, you do? I said, yeah, it's in my business closet with my yarn. It's up on the top shelf. So we got that down and we went in to the coin dealer, spent 3 hours on a Monday afternoon with the guy going through all the pieces, telling us what every one, some of the pennies were worth 2 cents. Some of the dimes were 12 cents, but then we ended up getting a chunk of change. My dad, we called him and he did decide to sell. He's 90 and they got $1,300 or $1,400 for this collection of stuff. And then Ross, we got down Ross's box, and Ross and I got $400 for our stuff that we haven't looked at in 20 years. So that, it was a afternoon well spent. Another thing we had decided we needed to do before the holiday, because we really didn't know if Dad would sell it, depending on how much they were going to give and if it would go up in value. Anyway, so we really wanted to get that money to them. But while we were going through these boxes to find the coins from Dad, and he brought them out, my mom got out a box, and I've told the story before, but my mom's mother died when my mom was born. So right after my mom's birth, she got pneumonia and passed away. And so my mom went home with her dad, but no mother. And then 2 years later, my grandfather remarried, but my mom was brought up in a boarding house that my grandfather went to live in with a couple of aunties. And there were some letters in there that they had written, and Mom had not remembered reading those. And there was like a small baby book that one of the aunties had written about paragraphs about my mom when she was a baby and how much trouble. My mom lost a ton of weight. They had a terrible time getting her to eat. They didn't have formula and fancy things in 1939. And so I think she said they landed on goat milk, but she was losing a lot of weight, not doing well. And grandfather was distraught. My grandpa Ford was just, distraught. So in this box of stuff, out comes this little tiny wrist bracelet, beaded, and it says Schmidt on it, and it's pink, and I have 2 brothers, so it had to be mine. And my mom said she didn't remember, and it's not stretchy. Now it might have been at one time, but it's a string in there, but that is my little baby bracelet from when I was born. And so she said, well, you may as well take it home. I didn't even know I had it. But Mom sat and read those letters and those notes and got a little choked up and cried. and we shared in that, and that was right before Thanksgiving when we were sitting at the kitchen table, and so yeah, I laid it on the kitchen, I laid it in here on the dining room table and thought, you know what, I'm gonna share that with my people and just say, you know, my mom had a lovely life, a wonderful upbringing, but and never ever called her brother and sister stepbrother, stepsister. They, you know, they just included her in that, but she never was really close then with the family of her mother because they didn't live where they were living, and so she never really got to see them that much. But this year for Christmas, which is just so ironic, I got my mom a pot. And how I ever saw this, I really have no idea, but I was on eBay and Etsy looking at stuff, and this popped up, and it was a Corningware dish. And Mom's is more of a, doesn't have the handle. Mine has the handle. But it says marjolaine. And my mom's name is Marjolaine, spelled that way, exactly that way. And no one really knows why she was named Marjolaine. She just knows that her mom thought it was pretty. And it's French, and it's it can stand for the spice marjoram, but it's also, marjolaine is a French pastry. It's like a cake. It's like a layered cake, and looks very difficult to make. So I need to find a French bakery somewhere in the US, or a French person that has heard of a marjolaine cake, so that I can try to figure out, get like a real recipe and figure out, hey bud, how that goes. So I got Mom a pot, and then I got her a casserole dish basically. And then I got this one that says La Marjolaine, and we both have it sitting on our stove because, you know, she just doesn't have like a family history around knowing. We knew her relatives. I met her relatives when I was a young child, her aunts and uncles. So her mom's brother lived in Seattle, and we drove to Seattle to meet them, Art and Betty. And they lived in Bothell, Washington. And I remember the long drive with my brothers in the back of the station wagon, laying on a foam mat, because we didn't do seatbelts back then, and going out to visit Art and Betty because that was a connection for my mom. But other than that, Mom didn't, you know, she didn't get to know any of her family history. So I just thought that this casserole that I found would be kind of a neat thing. And then I went out and found more Corningware and just more of as a decoration. So just some memories here after the holiday of my little bracelet. And then I had that sitting on there, and my mom's little name on a Corningware dish. So that's just kind of fun. I thought I would share. As you know, only Patreons can win prizes. So I went over and checked who had commented on the Patreon podcast as well as in the Patreon group underneath the podcast. And I did random number organizer in order to give away this little print of this sheep in the fall. And it goes to Chris as a Patreon, K-R-I-S. And Chris, your email starts with Chris Smith. So I just want to say congratulations for that. And I will put that in the mail to you as soon as you send me your address. And then the giveaway for this week's podcast, I have a cute little project bag. It's just a cute little bucket bag. And it has this cute little handle, and it has a snap, and then it also has a little pouch that goes with it. And then I have a bunch of these double pointed needle holders or circular needle holders. I have like a stack of them, and I've used like 2, and then the rest of them just sit there. So I'm going to add that in too. So for the bag and the little needle holder, on this episode 164 for Patreons, then go ahead and just make a comment, any comment at all, and I will draw on the next podcast. All right, that's all I have for you guys this week. Thanks so much for tuning in and being here for me. If you are not a Patreon, think about joining us. But if you are a Patreon, I know some of you are going to get to that point where you're thinking, gosh, you know what? I've given her $2 or $4 or $10 a month for quite a while now. And so I'm going to, stop my support because I've been doing it for a while. And can I just tell you that I'm so appreciated. If you need to go, I understand that. But if you can stay, I would be ever so thankful. I love this community. I'm more than willing to help if people want to reach out and chat with me about questions that they have about knitting, or come to the knit night, come to the book club. I am trying to keep things lively, and it just kind of peters out. People start off strong and then things kind of peter out. And so I do want this to be a place where I can provide a bit of a service to all of you if you're a Patreon member. So thank you so much for your support. And if you are interested in becoming a patron, you just go to patreon.com and you can sign up for $2, $4, or $10 a month to support my small business and help me honestly pay some of my bills. It's just really helpful. So I appreciate it. And for mailings, right? Just helping me pay for the prizes for the mailings that after I do a giveaway. All right. I will see you all in 2 weeks after. It will be in between Bemidji, Arizona and Sweater Camp. And I don't know how I'm going to get that done, but I'm going to figure it out. Okay. I think I'm going to try. I have a couple interviews coming up with some people. The holiday was really hard for people to, but I'm going to be chatting with Michelle of Woolens and Nosh, as well as Brianne Moody. So I have those scheduled coming up here, and hopefully I can get those edited and up in that few days that I'm home between events. All right. Bye. Come in for a hug. I'm so happy that you're here. Thanks.